Hey there, scrappers, recyclers, and investors. Welcome to Shark Scrapper Live, where every week we're talking about what's going on in the precious metal market, industrial metals market. We talk about safety aspects of our fantastic hobby or business in some cases. And we talk about miscellaneous events that come up during the week since we last met. Well, it's actually been 2 weeks since we last met because Mother Nature decided to take a tree down on part of our lines last week, and this week I gotta tell you, I was a little bit nervous because we've been caught up in that huge winter storm that's rolling across the United States. But Mother Nature cooperated, even though we did have a bunch of ice, still have a bunch of ice. It didn't take down any of the trees. So we're doing pretty good right now. And I think we're going to get through this. It's awesome to be back too. I really missed chatting with everybody last week and getting caught up on what's going on. All right, so let us see who has joined us here. J.R. Cat's in the house. Scrapping Irish is with us. Richard Holbert is with us. Great to have y'all here. J.R. Cat says he got 7 inches. Richard Holbert, no snow down there. um, yeah, they're in the he said he's got 84 degrees going. So, yeah, although the Florida Panhandle is under a tornado watch right now, we'll talk about that one. Let's see. Roger at CU Scrapping is with us. Yeah, Roger, retiring to the South isn't everything it sounds like. Trust me. There's a lot of people that try that and then turn around and go back. Let's see. Anybody else with us here? Andy Patadoo has joined us. Andy, great to have you here. Great to have you on board as always. Sister G123, welcome, welcome. Great to have you with us today. Well, we have a lot to talk about because the precious metal markets have just been going insane. I mean, insane, just crazy stuff going on. So here, wait a minute. Let's. I got to do this, and then I got to do this, and then this, and then this. There we go. That's what we want to do. That's what we want to see. All right. So I am up on the APMEX website again. I do not have a relationship with APMEX. They do not sponsor me. But hey, APMEX, if you want to, give me a call, right? Just I'm here to talk to you. Gold, we're gonna see this in more detail, but 4,099.20, and here we are on the 1 week chart, and we can see that gold had a pretty interesting run this week. Started out kind of flat, uh, built up a little bit, popped up to a bit of a plateau before a little correction occurred. And then it seemed like we had these little plateaus, and then we jump up and get another plateau, uh, correction, climb out. I mean, this is not an unusual pattern. It's just that we're talking about a lot of money here going on. Let's take a look at the 1 year signal, and you can see that we're on record territory here for gold. And we talked 2 weeks ago, we talked about the gold to silver ratio. And we're going to talk about that again today because things are still looking pretty good when it comes to the gold to silver ratio as well. So let's get over here to the Trading Economics website, pop over to gold. And just real quick, I'm going to go back as far as they go back. All right, so we're back here to the mid 60s, and you can see we're in record territory. I mean, gold is at all-time highs here. So this is phenomenal. Board sort is $54 a pound for gold RAM. There's just so much goodness going on right now for our gold scrap. So gold eased towards 4,900 per ounce level on Friday as investors took a breather following that sharp rally that pushed bullion to a record high of 4,966.93. I mean, I can just imagine the palpitations that must have been going on in some of those investment houses. Despite the pullback, gold is on track for strongest weekly performance since March of 2020, supported by fading confidence in U.S. assets, persistent geopolitical tensions, and broader economic uncertainty. Yeah. EU leaders expressed relief at President Trump's decision to back away from the tariff threat tied to Greenland, while warning that they remain ready to respond if situation changes. So that bubbles on. That's going to keep on going. And then on the macro front, we have PC inflation. The Federal Reserve's preferred gauge came largely in line with expectations in November, reinforcing views that the Fed will keep interest rates unchanged at their meeting next week. Now, there are still some people who are saying that we might see one or two interest rate lowerings next or during the course of the year here. But right now, it looks like they're going to hold it steady for the next meeting. Let's real quick take a look at, I'm going to go on the candlesticks because I really want to see what these look like. As we zoom in here on the later period here. So here's that last correction that we saw. And then we saw the prices start to come up, and look at these big old candlesticks here. All of these green candlesticks just screaming up for going up. That's just amazing. Investors are probably catching their breath right now for a while. But for us, for gold, this is a really good thing, because when gold goes to this kind of level, then our gold-bearing scrap becomes very valuable. Now, there's goods and bads associated with that, right? Your buyers may not have reacted as quickly and may not react as quickly as these price surges. So you might be sitting there going, hey, wait a minute, how come the prices haven't gone up? Boardsort.com does a real good job of staying on top of these things, which is why we see RAM, $54 a pound. So, that's a good, they're an example of a buyer who is staying on top of what's happening in the markets and, bringing in material. Other scrapyards may not do that. They either don't pay that close attention to the gold bearing world, the e-waste world, e-scrap, or they're just being really conservative and they're going to expect a correction, so they're holding back. Either way, it can be a little frustrating for us in the scrap world, because we want to get top dollar for that material, and now we're scratching our heads going, all right, well, maybe I'm going to hang on to these boards for a little bit and see if these prices keep going up and see what we're going to do here. Well, let's take a look at the forecast then and see what that is telling us. That's not bad. Here, let me get it. Let me highlight this forecast right there. That's a relatively gentle upward slope. Nothing to get too panicked about. Gold, let's see. Gold price has risen 11.31%. and is up 80.05% compared to the same time last year. They're looking at gold to trade at 5,045 by the end of this quarter. And their models are suggesting 5,312 and some change in the next 12 months. All right, so that's a good thing, because that tells us that our gold-bearing e-scrap is going to continue to increase in value. We can feel good about getting material, processing that material, and selling it knowing that the prices are probably always going to be as good or better than what we're getting right now. Now, the question always comes down to, should I hang on to some of this material? And, it's not a bad idea. If you have the space and you don't need the cash flow, then maybe holding back some of your better gold bearing material might not be a bad idea. We saw what went on with RAM up at $54 a pound now compared to a couple of weeks ago. So right there, you would have made a bit more money if you had held on to your RAM. RAM is a good gold bearing material to hang on to because it doesn't take up a lot of space. You can pack a lot of it into a small container, whereas motherboards and peripheral boards, they can be kind of bulky and they can, with stuff hanging on them that causes a lot of wasted space when you're packing them up. So yeah, maybe you keep selling your boards and those kind of things, but you hang on to some of that higher value gold bearing material, trying to take advantage of these price gains. Now, of course, there's a risk here, and the risk is that there's some sort of market correction that catches you hanging out there with that material. But as we talked about 2 weeks ago, the things that are causing the price of gold to go up are rather broad. You've got economic turmoil, you've got U.S. policy causing problems, you've got the wars in Ukraine causing problems. They're not. There isn't any one specific thing that is causing the prices to go up. So a correction of one event may not cause a huge crash. It may slow things down, it may settle things out a little bit, but you're probably safe to be hanging on to some of that material because there probably isn't going to be a huge correction that would play out. It is possible, of course, anything's possible in these markets, but you do have a little bit of safety margin in there if that's what you want to do. All right, I'm going to leave this up, and real quick, we're going to see what you all have had to say about gold before we take a quick trip over to silver. Let's see. Sister G's got approximately 15 RAM sticks. Very cool. Let's see. Richard's working on some silver. Very cool. JR Cat is looking to see how Hong Kong is going to open tonight. Yep. Man in the Shed, Ian has joined us. Welcome, Ian. Great to have you here. Let's see. Sister G thinks that they'll be hanging on to their keyboard silver. Okay, yeah. I got a nice bin of keyboard mylars that I need to work on. So. And of course, Richard, he always likes to tell us about how he doesn't sell any of that stuff. He processes everything, and so he's not going to be selling any of his RAM because he's got to process it for the gold. Richard loves to process his stuff. All right, well, let's get back over to APMEX and let's get over to silver. And look at that. I mean, silver is at 103.91. Holy cow. So we're looking at the 1-year chart here. We can see this climb that we had out here. It's just amazing to to think of silver at that level. Just phenomenal. Let's go take a look at the entire run of silver. So this is going back to the mid 90s, 1990s. We see this spike that silver had run up in here. And now look at this. I mean, we're breaking all the records on silver. It is phenomenal to see this with silver. And what I really want to focus on here real quick while we're still on the APMEX page, because I like their that they have the gold to silver ratio chart. And we see that the gold to silver ratio is dropping. It's down in 49.04. So it's below 50 now. Oops, below 50. And if we take a look at the history of the gold to silver ratio back to the mid 1990s, we see that, and let me get this line. Let's do this line. We see that we're here and we haven't seen the gold to silver ratio this low since what, 2011-ish? And really not too many times before that. So what you might want to think about doing here is, because a lot of us don't necessarily have a lot of cash to invest in gold, but you might have silver. And so maybe the play for you right now is to trade 50 ounces of silver for an ounce of gold. It's a way for you to get into gold by taking advantage of this gold to silver ratio. Now, of course, that means that you need to find a buyer who is willing to make that trade with you. So that can get a little bit tricky, because unlike the institutional trading people, we're going to coin shops and other dealerships to try to make this trade, on a smaller scale. We might only trade 50 to 100 or so ounces of silver for gold. That's not a big trade for, it seems like it to a lot of us, but it's really not that huge a thing. But there might be your coin dealerships, your pawn shops out there that are running low on silver because they've been selling it. They're nervous about buying some silver right now because it's so expensive. I've had reports of people saying, this is a great price, but I can't sell my silver. No one's buying it. So maybe this is a way for you to take advantage of what's going on. So maybe try to trade some of your silver for some gold right now while the gold to silver ratio is as low as it is right now. It's just something to look at. It could be an interesting thing to check out. Let's pop over to the Trading Economics website again. Getting over here, let's get into silver. And we see this real nice climb for silver here. This is a 1-year chart. And if we bring up the candlesticks, let's take a look at this area here, zoom in here. You can see that we've had this nice climb. When I zoom in, it doesn't look as impressive as when we're on the full year chart, because, wow, then it just seems like it's such a nice steep climb. But a really nice climb here. So silver surged to 100 per ounce for the first time, buoyed by a softer U.S. dollar, persistent geopolitical tensions, and broader economic uncertainty. Right, just like what we were talking about with gold. The greenback came under pressure, and shifting U.S.-European geopolitical dynamics are playing in there. So you got a lot of that going on. Meanwhile, the Federal Reserve is widely anticipated to leave interest rates unchanged at its meeting next week. So we talked about that with gold, and the same thing is playing into here. However, the markets are still pricing in 2 rate cuts for later this year. And that could gain traction depending upon who the president puts into the Fed. So we'll see how that one plays out. I want to bring your attention to this statement here. Beyond the macro forces, all these other things we've been talking about are macroeconomic forces. But beyond all of that, silver's rally has been amplified by a historic short squeeze. So robust retail investor demand and China's tightening export controls. So silver went through a short squeeze, and this is kind of interesting. So let's talk about a short squeeze and what happens. When traders, and these are, I don't know that any of us have the experience to play, puts and calls, shorts. I don't dabble in it because I'm a very boring investor, but there are a lot of traders out there that play this game of shorts. Now, in a normal situation, the way a short works is the investor, the trader, will borrow a number of shares from their brokerage holder, their brokerage account holder. They'll borrow, 100, 500 shares at, some high price. Then they try to sell those because they are betting that the price is going to go down. And then when the price goes down, they buy back those shares at that lower price and return them to the broker. And they keep the difference of the two prices. Now, that's the way shorts are played when you think the price is going to drop, usually for stocks, but people do it with commodities as well. A short squeeze is when a bunch of investors shorted, in this case, silver. So they borrowed a whole bunch of these accounts of silver, some quantity of silver. They borrowed a bunch of it, and then they weren't able to, get the price, that lower price. And so now they have to buy, they're losing money. So now they have to buy that silver at a more expensive price. And of course, other investors see that happening. And so other investors then start jacking up the prices so that they can squeeze these short sellers because they know those short sellers have to buy the shares or those ounces of silver in order to cover their positions. And so the short seller loses a bunch of money and the prices get jacked up. How much of this run up in silver was caused by a short squeeze and how much was caused by the macroeconomic factors? It's hard to say at this point. Now, there will probably be some people who will do the forensic analysis and take a look at that at some point later on. But, as far as we're concerned, as scrappers and recyclers, our biggest thing is, hey, the prices went up. So that means our silver bearing material is worth a lot more. So the mylars and the contacts and those kind of things that have silver in them. And that's a good thing for us. It makes us want to consider getting our silver, selling our silver bearing material for that money. The other question that plays into this is the gold to silver ratio that we talked about. And this higher price of silver is why you could trade, 50 ounces of silver to get that ounce of gold. So there's a number of factors here that influence things for those of us that are, a little bit smaller time players in this game, but it still doesn't mean that we shouldn't be paying attention to it. Now let's get back to the line chart here and let's see what they're talking about for silver's forecast. So this is still a nice forecast. It is a little bit steeper than gold, but not crazy steep. So looks like silver is going to continue to go up. And what are they talking about? They're expecting $105 by the end of the quarter. And in the next 12 months, they're estimating 115, just over 115. So that's a real nice signal. Again, we're looking at, you know, do we want to play that gold to silver ratio game right now? Or do we hang on here for a little bit because it looks like silver's price is going to rise a little bit. This line right here seems to me like that is a bit steeper slope than what we saw for gold. And so here, wait a minute, let's go over to gold. Let's go like this and this and this. I don't know. They're pretty close, but maybe silver was a little steeper. If you believe that the silver price is going to rise faster than the gold price, then you hang on. You don't do the gold to silver trade just yet. If you're not so sure, then you think, well, maybe we're at where, maybe it's the right time now to make that trade. So it's just something to think about. Because these are just really good times for us. As for should you be selling your silver bearing material, getting silver, recovering silver is a little bit more complex than recovering gold. Both of them require a certain amount of training, educating yourself, investment in safety material. And so you want to be careful with that either way. But if you have silver material and you're not planning on doing the recovery, then hey, why not sell some of it and hang on to some of it in anticipation of the prices going up? Excuse me. It is a when you see these forecasts with going up and we're at record high prices, I get a little bit nervous. Is that real? Are we really going to see those continue? They have been. We've been doing really well. So I would say if you don't need the money right now, don't be in a rush. But it also wouldn't hurt to play the game and maybe sell some of it and hang on to some of it while those prices keep going up. Because anything could happen here in the next few months and cause both the gold and silver market to go into a vast correction. So the other issue, of course, is do you have a buyer? It's a huge deal right now. Can you even sell your gold and silver? So that could be a tough one. All right. For our safety discussion here, it's pretty obvious what we need to be talking about for our safety discussion today. So, we're gonna get over here and just take a look at the weather. This app is called WeatherWise. It's a free app. There are some paid enhancements you can do with it, but the free version is really good. What you can see here is all of this area here. Let me see if I can get so you've got this snow here. Wait a minute, let me get that thicker. So we've got all of this snow up here, and then you have a line that's, if you can see this brown area here, so right along here, roughly, is snow on one side, ice and freezing rain. This green area in here is what's called a warm nose, so that's rain with ice and freezing ice mixed in. And then we've got the snow and ice down here on this side of it. And then just to make sure that everything is, honky-dory, we've got tornadoes down here in the U.S. Because you've got this, unstable, moist air coming up here from the Gulf of Mexico, crashing into all this cold air. You've got this front along here, and so you've got this unstable air here. We can even zoom in on that so you can see that a little better. So we've got this area for tornadoes. And then up north, we've got snow, we've got ice, we've got freezing rain. It's just a mess. And there's a lot of weather issues going on for a lot of people. Now, I want to show you here on this map why I was concerned, but why we were lucky. So here's Asheville right here. Let me get that marker again. So here's Asheville. And what you can see is we've got this area of rain and liquid moisture here, when we've got the frozen line along here. And so Asheville is right in the middle here. And so we've been getting this, we'll get some freezing rain for a while, and then rain, and then sleet, and then freezing rain, and then sleet. And so we've been pretty lucky. We didn't get enough accumulation to take down trees. Now, on the smaller roads, like the roads leading into where I live, the roads are just slick as ice. They're just covered with ice. They're very slick. The main roads are in pretty good condition, so they're doing okay, but the side roads are very problematic. But we did not lose power. We did not lose internet. So, we're doing pretty good here. But the same is not true for other major portions of the United States. You can see much, as I zoom in a little bit from where we were before, you can see this purple line. That's kind of like the boundary of the snow and ice. So along that boundary has been really bad for people. And, there's a lot of people that are without power all across the U.S., from starting down here in Texas all the way up through Arkansas and Tennessee. A lot of power outages. And then the worst part is going to be the cold that comes in behind it. We're going to have temperatures in the teens coming in behind all of this, and that's going to keep things frozen. So if you're in any of these affected areas, you don't want to be out driving right now if you don't have to. Some states have declared emergencies. They're not allowing people to drive. If you are without power and you do not have a secondary heat source, then you will probably need to find a warming station, a shelter. If you do have power, you have a generator or something like that, and you know of neighbors that might be in trouble, you might want to check on them. Please do not be out driving if you don't have to. But if you do have to go out, then you want to make sure that you have blankets, food, water, toiletries and things in case you get trouble and get stuck out on the road and those kind of things. But if you don't have to be out driving around, don't, because it's really dangerous out there in a lot of places. This is a good time to stay comfortable at home if you can. And please, please, please be careful with this weather, because ice is one of those, people see the snow and they are instinctively cautious. People see the ice, and for some reason, they don't recognize that ice is so much more dangerous than snow. We've had limbs coming down here from the ice, and fortunately, nothing has taken out a power line yet, so that's been good. So please be very careful out there. All right, let's do a real quick check on what you all have had to say about gold, silver, the snow. Let's see. Going up here. Trying to figure out where I was. Okay. Oh, Mike's Meltdown has joined us. Mike, great to have you here. Let's see. So Mike is saying local coin shops are not buying silver in a lot of instances right now. The problem is the refiners are so backed up that they're taking weeks to process orders. You know, it's interesting, Mike. I just saw a note from the CEO at APMEX addressing that very thing. That his staff has been working overtime, and their mint is behind because APMEX, they mint their own coins and bars and stuff, not coins but rounds and bars, and they're behind. So yeah, there's a lot of that going on, a lot of that going on. And Sister G is saying that my coin shops in NorCal, North California, for those of you that aren't familiar with NorCal, won't buy bullion at this time for the same reason. D Scrap's in the house. Welcome, D. Great to have you here. Richard got a little confused. He thought Sister G was in North Carolina. That's North California, NorCal. Sister G, Sacramento. Okay, yep, that's North California for sure. Richard's planning on a gold mining trip or a gold panning trip to Colorado in the spring. That should be a lot of fun. Yeah. I was surprised that they do a lot of gold panning here in North Carolina. Apparently, we've got some pretty good rivers around here that folks pan in. JR Cat just bought 40 pounds of, come on, there you go, 40 pounds of lab glass so he can make his own industrial Kool-Aid kit. Yeah, we know where you're going, buddy. Oh, man. Let's see. Richard was saying still a bit of, he was stationed in Camp Pendleton, okay, in Southern California. Yeah, Camp Pendleton's an interesting place. When I was in the Navy, I was out of Long Beach and San Diego many, many, many times. So I know that area quite well. Let's see. And so Richard was there from 89 to 92. Richard, we may have been in the area around the same time because I was on ships through 90 out of San Diego. And then I went to Monterey for postgraduate school after that. Very cool. That is very cool. Let's see here. Got Rogers and talking about Army stuff going on here. Yep. E-Waste Jill has joined us. It was minus 32 to minus 28 Friday. Youch, that is cold. That is way cold. Ohio governor is telling everybody to stay home. Yep. And Sister G is saying, I bet you can't find a gallon of milk in 18 states. Yeah, there may be some of that going on, but I wouldn't be going out to look for them anyway. So, yeah. All right. Well, I'm glad that everybody is staying safe. It is rough out there right now, so do be very, very careful. But we need to get back to metals because that's what we're here to talk about is our metals. So let's get over to copper and see what's going on with copper. Copper futures climbed above 580 a pound on Friday, rebounding from their multi-week low. And the demand for real assets increased as shifting U.S.-Europe geopolitical dynamics. This is the common theme, right? We've got all of the geopolitical dynamics that are going on, challenging everything from gold and silver to copper. And then copper becomes even more complicated because you have tariffs involved. Right now, there are tariffs on things that have processed copper in them, but the U.S. might impose tariffs on refined copper and copper ore. That could really mess things up. And because of that, there are people that are front loading copper into the U.S. to try to avoid some of those tariffs. Add into that, you've got problems at mines. So you've got supply risks. After the major Chilean copper mine had to halt production due to a strike, offsetting Freeport-McMoRan's progress in restarting their operations in Indonesia. On the demand side, you got strong consumption linked to the global transition to renewable energy. A lot of copper involved in moving electrons around. And what we talked about here with the shipments under the potential concerns for tariffs. And then you've got the Chinese smelters that have ramped up their exports through deliveries to the London Metal Exchange warehouses. So there's just a whole lot of dynamics playing out. And that's why we see, here we are, we're on the 1-year chart. And I mean, look at this level of activity here. Let me get a little bit smaller arrow, but I mean, look at, that's what I want. That's what I want. Look at all the dynamics going on here in these signals. There's a lot of volatility inside of the signals. The main signals themselves have a certain amount of volatility. This was the huge tariff announcement, right, that drove prices way down, and we've been digging our way back out of that original tariff announcement. But you can see all the variability that's on that upward trend, and that's just going to continue. Let's bring up the candlesticks here because that really shows us, if we zoom in on this latter part here, what we can see is we don't have a whole lot of huge candlesticks, but there are a lot of smaller variable ones, a lot of little ups and downs jumping around here. It'll be down here one day and then just jump right up here the next day. And then we have jumping back down here. So there's just a whole lot of variability going on with copper right now. And that copper signal is just really, really confusing. I would not want to be in those trading houses who are, they're trying to bank on what should we expect to pay for copper a year from now, so we have some idea of what we should be buying now. That's just a lot of craziness in there. It's very hard to make those decisions, and that's why you probably have seen your yards increasing their copper prices, but not as fast as you might think they should have. And that's because your yards are selling to their smelters, and their smelters are being cautious about what they think those prices are going to be. So that trickles down to probably the prices are a little bit slower going up than we would like right now for copper. But if we look at the forecast for copper, we do see a real nice copper signal here. That's about a 45-degree line. So I like to call that a sweet spot line there. It's a good enough rise that you can feel good hanging on to some copper. And yet it's not so steep that you're saying, oh, I got to hold on to all my copper because it's going to spike. So keep selling your lower grade copper material, your number 2 and 3 insulated. Hang on to your Bear Bright and your number one copper if you can, if you don't need that cash flow, and watch how these prices rise so that you understand, so that you can try to get some more somewhere down the line. 20% is a good number to hang on to. If you don't need the cash flow, hang on to all of your Bear Bright and all of your number one copper, and then just be selling your number 2 and number 3 insulated copper wire and maybe your number 3 copper, so that you do have money coming in that you can use at your discretion. It's a good time for copper. We've got a real good signal going on there, and you want to keep playing that one out. Let us head over to aluminum real quick. I'm going to bring me up for a minute because it takes a lot of button clicks to get over to aluminum because it's on a different place. So I'm going to go through all those button clicks to get to aluminum. No reason for you all to watch me do a whole lot of button clicking going on there. So here we are with aluminum. This is the 1-year signal. We've got a nice climb for aluminum. Aluminum futures rose in the UK after hovering around 3,130 per ton. We're into the tons now, close to more than a 3-year high. Here, wait a minute. Let's go ahead and let's go to the complete signal. So yeah, here we are. Nice high signal right there. Not the highest that aluminum has ever been, but pretty good. I mean, look at this. If we draw across this straight line, yeah, we're right. I mean, going back into as far back as this chart goes, there's only been one other time when copper was higher. So that is very nice. Aluminum was higher. And we have Chinese aluminum output reached record levels in 2025, exceeding the government's $45 million aim to curb structural oversupply. With demand continuing to rise for renewable energy projects, China's limited ability to raise output has been a major bullish driver. It keeps pushing up those prices because China's saying, yeah, we're gonna be slowing down production. We're gonna be slowing down production. But at the same time, China's efforts to expand capacity through new smelters in Indonesia have faced difficulties. And we've talked about this a few times. The Chinese companies that smelt aluminum, when they're in China, they've got the government telling them how much they can produce. So they're saying, well, we're going to go to Indonesia. We can make all kinds of aluminum there. Chinese government can't tell us what to do when we're not in China. But the problem is the Indonesian government can, and the Indonesian government is concerned about the energy that is required because aluminum smelting takes a lot of energy. And so you've got some real infrastructure challenges there that play into what's happening. Plus, you have temporary suspensions in key smelters in Iceland, Mozambique, and Australia. So you've got some real supply side challenges going on with aluminum. The good news for us is that means that secondary aluminum continues to be a very important commodity. And as recyclers and scrappers, that gives us a really good opportunity to sell our aluminum scrap, whether it's aluminum sheet, MLC, those aluminum heat sinks that we're constantly getting out of computers. There's just a lot of sources of aluminum scrap that are very good for us. And with these kind of prices, there's no reason why we shouldn't be doing well. We see that this is a relatively slow rise for aluminum here. Not that 45 degree that we saw for copper, but it is a nice slow rise for aluminum. What I really like about that signal is that we can keep selling aluminum as a cash flow metal. Fill up your bin, your truck, your box, whatever you use, and sell it and get your cash flow out of it, knowing that when you refill that bin again, you're going to get at least the same, maybe a little bit more the next time you take it in. Because aluminum, there's every expectation, at least for the next year, that aluminum prices are going to keep going up. Plus, there's a good, strong demand signal for aluminum. So your yard is going to need to keep selling your scrap aluminum to the smelters because it takes 90% less energy to produce secondary aluminum than it does to smelt primary aluminum. Smelting is the term that's used when you're getting the metal out of the ore. And that takes a lot of energy. Whereas melting and recovering aluminum from scrap, secondary aluminum, doesn't require nearly as much energy. And it's a great way to keep supplying that need for aluminum materials. It's great for us because as scrappers and recyclers, we've got some awesome opportunities to sell our material. So these are all really good signals. I'm very happy with what we're seeing in all of these. It just is going to be, it's just a really good thing for all of us in our world. All righty, let us see what you all have been talking about. Cruiser Mac joined us while we were talking. Great to have you on board, Cruiser, as always. Let's see. I'm going to go back up here now, trying to figure out. Enchanted Forest Jim. Hey guys, been here for a week, ready to get home too dry. Where have you been, Jim? Did I miss that? Let me see. Welcome to the show, by the way. I'm going up here to try to find his comment. Oh, stuck in Vegas. Stuck in Vegas for a couple more days due to travel delays. Yeah, need to get home so I can send in some more high peripheral boards. Oh man, that's got to be frustrating being stuck someplace where you can't do your business. That is weird. Yeah, I can understand your frustration there, man. There are worse places to be stuck than Vegas, but you got to be careful when you're stuck in Vegas because it can be very tempting to go hit the tables or something like that and lose a whole lot of money. Oh man. So I got to bring this comment up here from Richard about he'd go down to the clubs in San Diego and get in fights with the sailors, and that's what happens, right? We always used to say that if it's just sailors at a bar, they're going to get in a fight with each other. If it's sailors and Marines, they're going to get in a fight with each other. If an Army guy walks in, the sailors and the Marines will get in a fight with the Army dude. I mean, that's just the way we are. But that every sailor, soldier, Marine, and airman is going to pull together when the time comes because they're all on the same side. It's just that when there's no one else around to fight, they fight with each other. And when beer is involved, it gets really bad. Oh my. Yeah, so that's interesting that Enchanted Forest Gem is stuck in Vegas. Yeah, it might be a little while, Jim. I hope hopefully things will clear out relatively soon. But yeah, that bad weather as what I was talking about. That's because right after it clears out, the temperatures are gonna get frigid, and we're gonna be in the teens, and then you're gonna have a lot of a lot of frozen uh, infrastructure on top of everything else, and it won't be able to melt the ice off of the power lines. They'll put salt on the roads, but eventually, if it gets cold enough, that doesn't melt and get pushed away. And yeah, things can get really ugly really fast with these winter storms. So uh, yeah, hopefully you're not you're doing okay there. Let's see. Richard's saying the main copper mine in Chile is shut down. The main mine in Brazil is down for a year. I think supply will run low, and we'll see record prices at the yards. I mean, we saw that the prices were going up for sure, and there's no reason to not expect copper to keep going up. So yeah, that's very very likely. So Richard's saying that he set a sell point at 650. Okay, very cool. And that's a good point that I do want to that I want to pile onto here. Richard has set a sell point, and he said, when it gets to that point, I'm going to sell, and that's a really good thing to do. And then stick to your guns. Could it go above that, and you will have maybe lost some money because you didn't sell it when it was higher? Yeah, but it could also crash, and then you would lose money because the price went low. uh, it's always good to understand what your sell point is going to be. Otherwise, what happens is you hold on to whatever it is, in this case, copper, forever, waiting to sell it. The market crashes out from underneath of you. Now you're sitting there going, well, I got to wait for it to recover again. It starts to recover, and you're like, okay, now I got to wait it out again. So it's always a good thing to have a point where you're going to sell your material. Um, and because you might make some adjustments as you watch the market play out, but at least then you have your plan and you can execute your plan, and you're not just guessing what you want to do. I'm looking through comments here. They're talking about a book out there, which is really kind of cool. Not familiar with it, so I'm just going to let the conversation go on. Uh, Andrew has joined us from New Zealand. Very cool. Great to have you here, Andrew. Hopefully things are nice and warm down there because they are cold up here. And once again, we've got the world. We haven't completely spanned the globe, but we're doing pretty good because we've got New Zealand, and then we're into Europe. So we're doing really good covering the world with people in the chat. So it's fantastic. I love what our modern connectivity allows us to do. Solars is with us. Everyday Solars, great to have you here. Uh, as always. There's some more talk about some more books going on out there. And now I'm up to the point where Cruiser Mac joined us. So great to have you with us again, Cruiser Mac. D Scribe saying Burr is so cold. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Oh man, they didn't get your door finished, so you got a lot of cold air coming in. That is terrible, man. Yeah, that's not good. That's not good. I mean, I walk around and I can feel a few little drafts here and there, but yeah, that's rough. Roger, thank you for reminding everybody to do that. I appreciate it. Oh man, J.R. Cat says that his best bar fight was with the SAS in Korea. Yeah, we're not going there. Not going there. Enchanted Forge is saying I'm way too cheap to be to gamble in the casinos. You know, I always looked at the casinos as a source of entertainment. I would set a budget, and then I wouldn't go above that. And then the game was for me was how long can I entertain myself in a casino on like $100 or something. So hey, everybody, it is about time for us to get across the pond over to our friend in Ireland. So we're going to wrap things up here. If you have autoplay enabled, you will be automatically redirected to Scrapping Irish's live stream as soon as I get done. If you do not have autoplay enabled, then please just go into that YouTube search bar, type in Scrapping Irish. It'll pop up to show you that he's live and you can join us over there in Ireland. It's always a lot of fun. We never know what direction the conversation is going to go in because it's all driven by Q&A. He might ask a few questions to get folks started, but it's all driven on your questions and answers. So we're looking forward to everything that goes on over in Ireland. If I don't see you over there, please be safe. And if you're here in the US and you're anywhere involved in this winter storm that's going on, please keep a cautious eye out, pay attention to the weather around you, and be safe. Don't take any risks because it can change fast and you can be in trouble real fast. All right, everybody, we'll see you all over in Ireland.